my mother was the victim of credit card fraud. She was not very well in her last few years. She passed away in 2009, but about 4 or 5 years before that, she was starting to show signs of dementia. And somebody called her and said they needed her credit card number for whatever purpose. I don't remember because she was kind of vague about it. And she gave them her number. And then I think she told my sister before I heard about it. And my sister immediately called the bank and canceled the card. And fortunately, no major harm was done, but it was really hard to tell our mom that she had done something that she shouldn't have.
We've had many, many records created on each and every one of us. And I am curious to know whether or not all of that information is available to a person who wants to purchase that information from a county registrar's office, from a birth records office, from the hospital, or any place else, because the telephone company sells telephone numbers that are non-published. They are, published telephone numbers on list. The U.S. Post Office has our address. We know that the U.S. Post Office doesn't sell lists, but they do have lists for mail addresses, okay? These are all easily obtained, and they will violate your personal identity.
Nobody in the state government, nobody cares about the individuals out here in this audience about protecting their rights, freedoms, and liberties with respect to their privacy and all of their records and information that's out there. We have been completely open
I agree with you,
all
sir.
the way through.
I agree with you. I agree. Thank you very much.
Typical victim that comes to us is someone who is lonely, someone who's estranged from the younger family members, someone who can really look into what's going on, someone who has no relationship with anyone. And when that happens, that leaves the door wide open for the perpetrators to come in and abuse the senior financially, emotionally, physically, and there's no one to report what's going on until, unfortunately, sometimes it's too late.
They're the #1 targeted group because, for various reasons, they have the money. They have 70% of the wealth in the United States. They've worked hard all their life, and whether they have a lot of money or not, usually they own their home outright, and so that is a huge asset. They also are vulnerable. They are vulnerable either because they're living alone or because of memory loss. Statistics say that 1 in 5 seniors in the United States are victims of fraud, and that's low. That's a low number because it's underreported. Most seniors do not report it because they're embarrassed or because they are afraid that their children will take them from their homes or take over their finances, and that they'll lose the freedom and the independence that they have.
A lot of these scams too are what we call affinity crimes, basically where the scammer had some sort of link to the senior. It could be through church, it could be through some club group, some investment situation where the perpetrator uses that as a way to gain the trust of the consumer, to isolate the consumer from asking questions to other people who would tell them not to fall for the scam. They pressure them into making quick decisions, especially with these investment scams, that it's good only today, and if you don't, you have to make the decision right now, or I'm going to go to somebody else, and you don't want to miss out on this great rate of return. For seniors, telemarketing is one of the biggest areas where the volume of consumers or victims is just incredible. It is estimated that consumers lose over $50 billion to telemarketing fraud every year. And a vast majority of those consumers are seniors for obvious reasons. Seniors are at home during the day when the calls are made. Seniors are more trusting. Seniors are less reluctant to shut the door on your face or hang up on the phone call because, they're from a different era. They are polite. They feel that, they need to treat people with respect. Clearly, these telemarketer scammers know those issues very well. They're very professional, are convincing seniors to part with their money.
A phone call I received this morning around 8:30, and this gentleman on the phone claims that he had a check for me, a $25 million check, and he was from the Allstate Insurance Company. And he would like to know if I wanted to claim that check, and I told him, well, of course, why don't you just send it? And he says, well, no, you have to go to the local CVS pharmacy and buy a green spot package, which is a lottery or something like that. And it's a scratch-off number that I have to give him to make sure that I can claim the prize. And I says, well, what if it's the wrong number? He says, no, it's the right number because I have your name down here. He asked me how long it would take for me to go and purchase. He didn't say buy, he said purchase this card. And I says, well, you mean I have to buy this? He says, no, you just have to purchase it. And I says, well, how much does it cost? He says, it's only $120 to go out and purchase this. And I says, you mean I have to spend money to get this? And he says, no, you don't have to spend any money. It's actually, it's for nothing because I have this $25 million here for you.
Telemarketers share lists. They buy lists from each other. And it is very disturbing and very frustrating for us that once a senior is identified as someone who has contributed to some scam, who has paid into a lottery, who has fallen for a sweepstakes phony offer, that they won a trip and so on, and so they send money. Those seniors, unfortunately, then get added to a list. So these telemarketers know that if someone paid money for one of the scams at some point, there is a greater percentage that they will do it again than your regular consumer.
It's very common down here, especially in LA, where people, well, they know where the seniors live. And they'll knock on the door and, there we go again. Seniors are polite, so they'll open their door and put themselves at risk. And they'll either pose as utility workers, they'll pose as contractors, there'll be somebody with a small child that just wants to get in the home. The goal is to get in the home, and sometimes there's two people, and so they'll use the diversion tactic to, one will talk to the homeowner and one will go around and steal.
Seems there's a whole lot of people that have been calling Edison customers And we're going, and they say, we're going to have to turn your electricity off because you have not paid your bill and you have to pay it. And otherwise, we're going to turn off all the electricity. It's strange. And they tell the story of a man that actually believed it, and he ended up paying $3,000.
They meet someone because they're lonely. They meet someone online who seems very friendly. They chat online. They might even fall in love with someone online. Turns out that person isn't who they say they are, but they'll try to get money out of the senior. Anything to separate the senior from their money.
Two young women who were going around and befriending older gentlemen by going to the coffee shops, that they frequent, and engaging them in conversation. And they drove a Jeep, and they would ask it for advice about the Jeep and stuff. And then in one case, they really ingratiated themselves to this lonely older gentleman and moved into his house for a little while, in fact. And they did manage to make off with a fair amount of money from him. But that again was a situation where he was embarrassed to report it. We didn't find out about it until they got caught.
Hello? Hello?
The grandma, the grandpa, the cousin, the niece, whatever it is type of scam, and it takes different formats. It's not just one particular method. And the way this one works is generally the scammer does a little homework. They try to find out information about the victim, and they'll call. And if they know that the victim has grandchildren, okay, they'll call and they'll say, "Grandma, it's me." And they may throw out some more information just to entice the person. And so the person maybe have been caught off guard and will start voluntarily giving information. And so the next thing, once that happens, they're hooked, and they'll say, "Grandma, I've been in an accident, or I can't cross the border, or I've had some sort of difficulties and I need money. Can you send me $300, $500, whatever it is?" And by the way, don't tell mom, don't tell dad, or whatever it is. I don't want to scare them. And the person, again, not thinking, will send the money out.
About a year ago, I received a call, supposedly from my grandson, saying he had been in an accident and was in jail. And fortunately, I knew his voice, and even though he said it was because he had a cold, I realized it was not my grandson. And when I asked him for his middle name, then they didn't stay on the line very long after that.
Well, mail fraud is anything that transpires through the mail that is deceiving, taking advantage of someone, isn't what it seems to be.
Yeah, okay, while paying my bills beginning of the month, I noticed that the credit card bill had a late fee. So then I decided to check the bank online, and I was surprised when I see the check payee had been changed to a new person. So as soon as I did, after that, I went to the bank, and the bank told me to contact the claims department, or but it had a different name for it. And then they told me to go to the police department also and open a case number. I did both. And they told me that I guess they had a check and they couldn't see very well who cashed it or when, but they had the information because it was cashed at the bank someplace. And so then the police, when I talked to the police, they told me there were three possibilities. Somebody stole the mail from the post office, somebody at the post office was crooked, or somebody at the bank where the mail was received. So.
One of the things that our social workers see when they visit, respond to a senior, report, one of the things that we ask them to look for is piles of mail. The seniors just start receiving all these phony offers, and they pile up. The senior is lonely. They start getting the phone calls, and that's how they get to steal their money.
How often do you get these?
I'd say once a month, but this came two in 1 day, in 2 days, and then and I just did one last week, and then I have to do one for Ray's aunt because she's already got it spent on taking care of all of her needy friends.
All of her needy friends.
A lot of it is really people soliciting the seniors. And so if they don't participate, then they're not going to be scammed. So meaning the solicitations come through the door, through the phone, through the mail, and through email. And if they just don't participate, they're not going to be scammed.
Don't do business on the telephone or on the computer with people that you do not know.
Yeah.
Absolutely specifically. And that you contact them, not that they contact you.
That's right.
If the family treated the family as a corporation and looked out for each other as the shareholders, the stakeholders in that corporation, and they designated a CEO, someone who's great with finances, someone who would be in charge of that living trust, in making sure that the perpetrator doesn't come in, gain the trust of the elderly consumer, and steal the assets of the corporation without the family knowing. So in doing our outreach, in doing our education, we try extra hard to get the family members to come to these workshops. There's some sections in the California Penal Code that enhance the charges, enhance the penalties, gives us extra tools when the victim is a senior. So we use that in addition to the regular, grand theft, 487 of the Penal Code and so on. We like to use the enhancements because it allows us to stop the abuse. Is greater jail sentences. There is a section that allows us to get money back more easily for the victims and so on. So, our investigations look at the totality of the investigation, and we try to make sure that we charge the perpetrator with as many violations as apply given the circumstances.
we never got calls like this when we were younger. I mean, it's only been the last couple of years that people are calling and on the internet and trying to do this. So they know what age we are, and I think that they think that we just got
Stupid.
old, and we didn't. We got old, but not stupid. But by virtue of the fact that they do this, and fairly regularly, somebody must be falling for it, or, and more's the pity for them.